This is episode number 11 of Technology and Choice, the podcast where we're likely to talk about almost anything as long as it really revolves around those two concepts, technology and choice. And this episode, we're going to launch right into it. We have the honor of having Sean Wilkinson, the CEO and CTO of Storj, S-T-O-R-J.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, welcome. We're going to plow right in here. You know, I'm going to say right up front what I told you when we started talking is that probably everybody who's listening to this would know, and if you don't, I do another podcast about the safe network technology, and that's how I started podcasting. And Technology and Choice is kind of a spin-off into the wide blue realms of all about technology and choice. But I had pretty much dismissed Storj from early on because I had, in fact, right at the Texas Bitcoin conference in 14, was it?
Oh, yeah, back in the day.
Was it just 14?
Yeah, it was 14.
Okay, that's when you entered the hackathon at that, and you guys won the prize that launched Storj, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was back early 2014,
Yeah.
I think around March.
March or April,
Yeah.
Well, that was cool. I was there. I remember seeing y'all get that. And I actually, David Irvine and Nick Lambert were at that same Bitcoin conference.
Yeah, they did a panel.
And I missed them. I didn't find out.
Oh, no.
I didn't find out about MadeSafe until thereafter. But anyway, I had just really started getting into the whole Bitcoin ecosystem at that time. But, you know, I plowed right into Safe when I found, oh my goodness. And so I dismissed Storj as, oh, well, that's just kind of doing something that Safe Network is going to do better. I didn't really get disabused of that until just a couple weeks ago. I was in Salt Lake and went to a meetup. Actually, it was Amanda B. Johnson was there talking about Dash, which I'd love to do another episode on. But also one of your core team, John Quinn. John Quinn was there, and we talked, and I went, I got an idea. It's like, oh my goodness, I had to let myself be misunderstood. I really had not understood what y'all were doing. So I was going to interview him, but it came up. You know, I'm glad I got you. No, not to dismiss John. He's a very eloquent guy.
No, we all love John.
But anyway, so Storj. Well, first of all, before we plow into that, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and so people kind of know where you're coming from, and you know,
Sure.
what you got.
So I got my undergraduate degree from Morehouse College in computer science, and that degree is great, but in college I actually found out about Bitcoin in about 2012. So that was the most important part there. Started out as a early miner, then kind of fell in love with the technology. Worked on many different projects, BitShares, PureCoin, PrimeCoin. Actually, was one of the very first people to talk to MadeSafe as
Wow.
they were getting into the ecosystem. So very, very early in the space, or midway through the space, and
We're still early.
Yeah, just thought that the intersection of data and cloud storage was kind of the perfect application of blockchain technology. So in 2014, started an open source project, raised $500,000 to build out a distributed cloud storage network using Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And then in 2015, we said, hey, we got something really cool and really great here, but at the end of the day, people have to use it. So
Right.
let's build out a company to make it really simple to use and very easy to integrate. And so that's been running for about a year now. So we have a live distributed storage network with about 7 petabytes of capacity, storing that's 7,000 terabytes, and storing 1.5 petabytes of data. That's 1,500 terabytes of data. And we just signed our first Fortune 500 company, Cox Enterprises. So
Oh.
just kind of
So,
chugging
okay.
along,
Boy,
and
there's a lot in what you just said that we want to
yep,
unpack to make sure we don't leave too many people in the dust.
yeah.
Because
So we
that
can
was
back
one
couple up.
reason I was talking with John's because he's not a developer and he has to talk to developers. So, but that's right. I I can keep you from going too far. No, that's good. So let's see. First of all, let's get a description for those that aren't familiar with it. What storage is and why, when you say distributed cloud storage, what does that mean, or why should folks that don't know what that means care?
Yeah, so I mean, we can start at a place where everyone knows and understands, right? Dropbox. We're all familiar with, this cloud storage interface that we use to store our data. That's easy to share. But a lot of people don't know is for years and years and years, Dropbox never stored a single shred of data. They sent all that data over to Amazon S3. And Amazon S3 is the one that actually stored all this data at scale. They
That's
had
the
these
big
massive data centers.
that's the big data centers,
Uh,
big server farms, and so Dropbox was just renting, basically.
exactly.
Okay, okay.
That's the funny part. And if you deeper into that, Dropbox is barely making money versus Amazon S3 posted, $1 billion in surprise profits. Last
Wow.
year, all their investors were like, "Whoa, what's going on?" They
Oh.
didn't even expect it. It's experiencing massive growth. So our thought is that, we really want to provide a platform like Amazon S3. I think when we started out the project, we're like, we're going to create another Dropbox. So we came to the realization that that's really not where the money is. That's not where the innovation is. That's not where the data is being stored. It's storing on these layers underneath that really handle and store the data. So we're all about building a platform like Amazon S3 that can provide better security to the user, where traditional provider can't go snooping through your files and data, better privacy, better performance, and a better cost. And the
So
way we do that is by not using the traditional model, right? Not using those data
and
centers.
this is where it gets
Yeah, this is the
interesting. Yeah,
fun part.
yeah.
This is the where we can take your extra hard drive space that you're just not using, and we can actually buy that space from you. You can rent that space out to be a part of this network. And so this cloud ends up not being, a bunch of data centers sitting somewhere in, Salt Lake City or Nevada or where else. It's
Yeah.
just made up of your extra hard drive space, a cloud powered by people rather than, gigantic, monolithic $600 million data centers.
And people getting paid for making that contribution. That's kind of neat too. It's like, oh, you're
Absolutely.
being compensated. This is one of the things I think you and I both shared about the appeal of the safe network and how that's being designed to run. It's like, no, we bypass all of those. Like in San Antonio, there was a shopping mall that was never that
Hmm.
big a deal. Rackspace came in, they bought it up and they converted that, and that's just that a whole huge shopping mall is just full
Yeah.
of servers now. And I go, that's interesting, but there's something wrong with that somehow. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it because hey, it's I'm sure they got the bandwidth and everything there, and there's certain advantages, but it's kind of like, does it have to be that way necessarily to be efficient?
Yeah, it's funny when you start diving down into the numbers. One many times ago I was doing kind of investment slide or presenting the project, and we wanted to show how much free available hard drive space out there just on even a fraction of users' computers compared to the traditional cloud. And we added up Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter, like all the Microsoft, Apple, all the major providers that you could think of that we could find stats on. You add them all up together, and we try to show a graph of available storage space compared to them. And we had a bit of an issue because we couldn't actually display that. The traditional cloud combined was just didn't even show up on the scale compared to the amount of just free capacity we had out there. So our designer Tome was just like, Sean, I don't know how to like display this. It doesn't like it's not even a
You
pixel
can't.
on the screen.
Oh
So
wow.
there's so many resources available out there, and until Bitcoin and blockchain technology came along, and we figured out how to actually incentivize people to get those resources out there. There was just no way to break into that and use really the power that that can actually bring. I mean, the internet is a distributed and decentralized network,
Right.
but the way we store data is completely centralized.
Yeah. No, it's
And
crazy.
so it's all the problems that we experience with cloud security, privacy, cost, performance. Like
It
all of those are just based on that.
it's not even a matter of physical centralization. Really, it's not a matter of there's these big clumps of servers. It's
Mhm.
a matter of who controls what's going on there.
Absolutely.
That's the centralization part that I'm concerned with more than anything. Though it's nice to have it distributed over space.
Yeah,
It's a matter
I
of
mean,
who's in
just
control.
yeah, I mean, just to the users. I mean, just think: have you used Yahoo, Dropbox, or LinkedIn? Just think to yourself, raise your hand.
Right. Right.
All of those services have been hacked. You can buy the credentials online for like $5 on the dark web. That's the issue of putting all that data in one place.
Okay. So
It's
how is this designed? Yeah, I mean, we're going to the. I want this podcast to appeal to everybody from somebody who's just kind of stumbling into the space and going, oh, well, that's interesting. What is that? All the way to the other end of your real target customers here now. And this is what got me, and I'll go ahead and say it up front, is you're really targeting application developers now to use
right.
storage as their back end rather than having to use these other services. Because if you're running an app, you're going to have data somewhere.
Yeah, so the realization that we came to is that when you download the next, I don't know, cat picture sharing app on your phone, do you know or care what service or server it goes to? Like you don't care. You don't know. You just care that the app works and you're able to view and upload cat pictures.
But when it gets to your
Uh,
personal pictures, that's another matter.
yeah, it ends up being kind of the same
Well, I
thing
mean, it does. If
yeah,
I
for the
get more concerned with that,
yeah.
slightly.
People should be concerned. The question is, are some of them?
Yeah,
That's
well,
another issue for
we're
another
not, but
time.
that's another thing. Hey, but I think anybody given the choice, given the like, oh well, you can do it just as easily over here as there, I think they're gonna opt for going. Well, I don't need everybody looking through those or anybody that I don't know
Yeah,
looking at all my
absolutely.
cat.
And people are trending towards, apps that are starting to care about their users and encrypt their data and be more private and more secure. So our thought is that let's provide those tools for the developers to be able to integrate that into the application. So you just use that exact same application, or you download a new application that has that built in. You don't have to think about all those components. All you know is, oh, it worked the same way before, but now all the data is encrypted and it can't be hacked or accessed. But I don't have to do any more work to make that happen.
Right. So
Uh,
it's a matter of making it easy and making it more workable even without compromising the security, which is kind of compromised by default these days.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the idea that you get an app update and it's automatically more secure. You don't have to do anything. It'd be nice if that worked, that way in the physical world is that you have your car and you get an update and suddenly it can go faster.
Right.
But
Right.
in the digital world, the
That can
physical world you can't do that. But in the digital world you can. Unless maybe if you have like a Tesla, they
Yeah,
seem to.
I've heard some things about that. Oh, we got a tweak. Vroom. Anyway, cool. So where are we now? We've got the basic thing. We've got the data centers now. Your stuff could actually run on a data center, right? If you wanted to rent space in a data center, you could run the same application you might run on your desktop, and there might be some advantage for somebody there, right?
Yeah, so we
They
have
could
a
at least
wide
it could
gamut.
be done.
Yeah, so we have a wide gamut of people who are providing capacity to the network. Like I said, there's about 7,000 terabytes of data on this network. About 5,000 people are participating and renting out their hard drive space to this network. But it's anywhere from someone who has like an old laptop that's sitting in a corner that they're sharing some space on to some guy who works in a data center. And he's just like, oh, well, I have 12 extra racks just sitting over there. Why don't I just contribute into the network? I'm not getting anything from them anyways.
Cool.
So we really have a wide gambit, wide variety of people who are using their phones, their laptops, their desktop computer, their extra servers to contribute to this network. And of course, they get incentivized for that.
Okay, well, let's take a look at how it is different. How is it more secure doing it that way than say just giving it all to Google or Dropbox and trusting that they're gonna keep it secure, which we actually know they can't. They can
Right.
try. They can try. They can. I don't doubt that they make really good efforts, but there's something
Yes.
wrong with the model. How is
Yeah.
this a better model for security and efficiency?
So you kind of start at the start of the equation, and you think this data is no longer going into a nice manicured data center where you have your firewalls and you have your locked up data center with access controls and all this kind of stuff. This data is going on a bunch of different devices on the web. So that data needs to be secured not at that endpoint. It needs to be secured before it even leaves the computer to go to the network.
Right.
And so when you upload a file to this network, let's say you're using that cool cat picture sharing app, that data will be encrypted on your device, split into multiple pieces, and then distributed in the network. Now, the key component is we never get the encryption keys to that.
Right.
The network never gets the encryption keys to that. Only you, the user, have the encryption keys to that file. Only you can access it, and only you know the mapping of how this piece goes to this piece to reassemble the file.
Right. Now that I'm going to relate because I've done a lot of study of the safe network in regards to this, and when we and I've got to say, some people might be scared off when you say, well, you know where these parts. No, you don't. It's your software knows. It's like in the safe network, you have that file that's split up and self-encrypted, and what's retained is a data map that tells where
Right.
the data, how to find the data, how to pull it back, and how to de-encrypt it, and that never goes away from your own personal control. It's the same,
Right. And
pretty
so
much the same with what you're doing, right?
yeah, so the buzzword that goes along with that is zero knowledge, right? It's
Right.
the idea of that we just get encrypted locked boxes on the network, and we have zero knowledge of the data. And so the ultimate solution to that problem of data security is you look at again Dropbox, LinkedIn, Yahoo, all got hacked. Is just remove that counterparty, remove that third party entirely, and you solve the problem. Now, if, for example, our service gets hacked, Storage Labs, so what? We don't have any encryption keys to the data. We don't have, the mappings for the data.
You don't even have control of all the hardware that is holding
Exactly.
the data or know what's where, right?
Right. So
That's good.
it's useless to you. So that's the real power of it is just changing. You have this problem. It's changing the architecture to eliminate that problem entirely. Just remove that person as a counterparty on the data, and that solves your security problem rather than, again, trying to have all these intrusion detection systems and all these other things to secure the data. Just drop the problem by having the user have control over that and not the third party service.
Cool. Well, I don't think we want to dive much more deeply into that technically because we're trying to. I really want to appeal to a broad range of people here, and I really do think we can appeal even to the more technically inclined in some of the things we're going to cover. But basically, before the data, if I'm going to store something on the storage network, it's all handled and it's split up and made completely unreadable to anybody but me, or but my ability, my login, whatever. And then it goes
Right.
out on the network, who knows where, just amongst everybody who's participating or some of the people who are participating and giving their storage. And then when I call it, now this is a neat advantage of the way this is distributed. I think you can probably highlight What about the speed of recovery on that? In other words, when you go to, okay, Google, send me my file, basically
Mhm.
it takes it from one wherever it's stored, and you get it. They get a pretty high bandwidth download, and you get it pretty quickly. How is it different on the storage network?
Yeah, so the cool thing about peer-to-peer networks, what we're built and based on is that they're really, really, really performant. You think of retrieving that file, and you might be retrieving that file from, somewhere in Nevada where they have this, massive data center. Our network says, hey, we have bits and pieces of this file spread out all over the world, and let's stream that file to you simultaneously from multiple places. And it really wants to optimize to say, hey, we actually have someone who's sharing their hard drive space that's 3 blocks down from you. Let's use that person to store and retrieve that file, and that's going to be a lot faster and a lot more performant than that data center that is, maybe, hundreds of miles away. And so if you look at this in practice, if you look at something that we're used to, you look at something like BitTorrent, which is really, really fast and really, really performant if you use it. But the issue is that it's only fast for the popular content, right? It's only
Exactly.
fast for the content that everyone wants. So we have examples of this working really, really well at scale. The issue is like the content that's not accessed so much. So the pictures of your cat that you
Yeah,
want to store, but
if you
nobody
get
cares about.
if you're downloading a movie or something, then there's only one or two people seeding it to the BitTorrent network. Then you've got to get everything from that one or two places. So it's like downloading from just sharing a file with your friend, which can take a long time if you've got one single connection, right?
Absolutely. And so that missing piece is that incentivization to be able to say, hey, you don't really care about my cat picture, but you do care about getting paid for storing that for me. And so you can make that very fast and performant.
Well,
Um,
I think one thing we want to clarify here is the fact that
mhm.
that file is chopped up into pieces, and those are spread out all over. So
Exactly.
that one file may exist on 100 different drives in
Right.
multiple copies, right? It's not just one copy in case it goes. You've
Right.
got multiple copies. So when you call for that file, all those pieces come rushing from everywhere. So that whole file is going to basically be arrive and be assembled at whatever speed it's necessary to get
Right.
to one thing or
Right.
a few things to arrive.
And a good analogy to think of it is, which produces, outputs more water, a fire hose or a garden hose?
Well, when you're talking to singles, it's obvious the fire hose, obviously. Well,
Right.
what about
But what
5,000
happens
garden
when,
hoses?
exactly, what if you start adding more garden hoses?
Right.
At some point, and the thing is, you can add as many garden hoses as you like. At some point, the total water capacity that's being outputted is more on, 500 garden hoses than it is on a fire hose. You
That's
can
a good
keep on
analogy.
going. Yeah,
That's a
you
good
can keep
analogy. I
on,
like that.
yeah, you can keep on adding garden hoses till you just can't handle any more water. And so that's really the power of the network is that you have something that you want to get someplace fast and you use something like a traditional service like Google or Amazon, they're just going to have a fire hose to their local data center. There's a max cap on what that can be versus in our network, you just keep on adding, garden hoses until you just can't handle any more water. So
That's great. Well, that is a good mental picture for people to latch onto. I appreciate that.
so,
I had gotten the image of it, but not in that analogy. So that's really good.
yeah.
So, okay, we've got two angles I want to cover here. First of all, let's start with the business end. Like, okay, well, people are going to, and we'll talk about someone who wants to say, hey, I've got some spare. I might as well set up and run a storage node and get paid in what, storage coin,
Correct.
which is tradable, and you can shift that over to Bitcoin or to cash or whatever. So that's
Whatever you
just
want. Or Dogecoin.
it's a type or whatever you want, your Dogecoin, whatever you want. That you can choose the value you wish to redeem or just to hold that if you. So you're going to get paid some way. You're going to get something back. and we'll talk about how to do that for those that are interested. But let's shift to the business end here. Like, who's going to use this network? Who's going to want to use that to store their stuff? People who, I mean, I get, as slow as it might be, I get a lot of free storage from Google and this, that, and the other, and it's not sensitive. And so I'm not honestly going to be going, okay, well, I don't have to pay anything on Google. I'm not too worried about the privacy. Why would I want to pay anything right now to, and I might, but
Right.
that's not your main target public, right?
Yeah, so this is kind of the realization that we had in 2015 is that we have, this really powerful technology to store data, but at the end of the day, people have to use it. And so our thought is like, let's build a business around this that can take this technology and help support and integrate it and get it into people's hands. So that's what we're really targeting is developers. We gave the example of, I keep on coming back to this cat picture sharing app where, before they could be using Amazon S3 to store, all these pictures of cats. And we want to provide them with a very simple API to just replace that Amazon S3 with storage. And automatically they're getting, faster user performance. The cat pictures are now encrypted and private so they can't be hacked. They're paying a price point that's half off any traditional cloud storage provider that's out there. And so that can sit there and, they can spend a few hours of integration and they can touch, 50 or 100,000 users without the users really having to lift a finger. And so that's where we're really focusing on is that layer underneath where the sausage is made and making that process a lot easier and passing on those benefits to the end user. They don't have to worry about it. They just know, oh, the sausage tastes a little bit better than it did last time. Don't know why, but it tastes better.
Exactly. Okay, so you're leveraging. Now, I think I heard the figure of you storage is actually targeting to build the user base, the real user base.
Right.
Not the end users, but the app developer user base of 1 million developers, right? Or
Right.
1 million applications.
Right. So we can go.
That boggles my mind. Well, then let's
Yeah.
break that down into. And when you just say cat pictures, I don't think that tells the tale. Or where's 1 million cat pictures? I mean, they're nice, but there's a lot of them, but not that much. So,
So
I
I
want
can
to
give a
look
few
at what other
examples.
kinds of apps and how is that going to scale out to where that makes any sense.
Yeah, so we're sitting down and integrating with platforms like Heroku, which there's 1 million plus developers on that platform
Really?
building and writing apps.
What kind of platform is that?
So it's a developer-oriented platform. It's something that allows you to say, "Hey, I have this app to develop, but I don't want to really manage the infrastructure behind it." It gives you a platform to just put your application and
Oh,
it
I
helps
see.
you
To
scale
run your.
that.
Oh, I got it. So
Right,
you're
exactly.
looking at even being the back end for already something that's writing 1
Exactly.
million apps. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So that's a heavy platform the developers use that, again, the whole purpose of the company is to say, here's all this, magical technology. Let's put in a package that people can just use, just plug into their applications. The secondary thing is more our longer plays, more in terms of like enterprise. So, for example, a few weeks ago, we just signed Cox Enterprises, which is a major Fortune 500 company, and to store up to a petabyte of data on our network.
That's just dipping
So
the toe in the water. Yeah.
yeah, that's just
That's
dipping the
just,
toe in the
well, we're going to
water
try it
for us.
out and see if this works for us. All right. Okay.
Right.
Hey, cheers.
Exactly. So
You got
it
to start. That's great.
absolutely, absolutely. So it's this idea that, Storage Labs, the company, is really supposed to be kind of the sword and shield for the open source project and network,
Right.
which is storage. And, we can get on a plane and go, sell the technology to someone, and that brings value back into the community. So actually, 2 days from now, I'm going out to the valley to do exactly that. So that's
Wow.
that's really the purpose is to help. This is a technology that helps empower the users, give them more privacy, security, speed, all these kinds of things. But at the end of the day, someone has to build it, someone has to integrate it, someone has to get it out
So
there,
you're
and so
going
our
right for
job.
you're right and going right for the people who facilitate people using it. So and that's the
Absolutely, absolutely,
application developers. Okay, cool.
absolutely.
Now you talked about this. Wasn't something I had thought about before, but you guys are targeting already pre-existing bundles of app developers, right? In other words,
Yeah,
Heroku or other things where you go, oh well, these guys are already using this platform. Let's just slip in there and help them by putting a cheaper, faster, better, more secure infrastructure underneath what they're doing, right?
yeah,
That's
and
one
that's
direction.
something that we focused on. I think there's a lot of Bitcoin technologies that are building, next gen systems. And while we are building out, these next gen systems that have
Next generation.
yeah,
I got it. Okay,
next generation systems that can do
okay,
all these things. We want to be able to create inroads to these older systems to say, hey, you've heard of this, Bitcoin and blockchain stuff that has all this cool technology stuff. And you're like, okay, but how if I can give you a tool that can make your app perform twice as fast at half the cost? Okay, that's interesting to
that
me.
yeah.
Uh, and that's very useful to people. So we're all about for new apps and things that are being developed and existing apps to say, here's the tool set that's similar to what you're used to using, and very simple to use, but it has all these additional
I
features,
got
and you
it.
don't have to worry about what's going on under the hood.
So, but you're also making appeals, of course, to individual app developers, or you just so basically that's beyond my expertise. So that and that's probably enough said. So, but this is a call out to app developers, whether you're already using another service, whether you're just coming on, check out storage as a possibility for at least one component in your back end. At least on the storing of the data.
Absolutely.
I got it. Okay, and then in order to do that, somebody's paying for storage somewhere, sometime, even if it's with your privacy, and which is what we're all paying who use Google, this, that,
Which
and the
is
other.
what
It's
you
like
normally pay when you use more traditional cloud storage
exactly
services.
you're paying with something that's actually kind of priceless,
Yeah.
and so but they're monetizing that somehow. And
Yeah.
that's kind of that gets hard. I don't even want to think about that right now. How they're monetizing free.
Yeah.
But somebody's really paying somewhere. I mean, these guys aren't doing it just to be nosy. They're doing it
Hmm.
to profit.
Hmm.
So, and the individuals or whoever is running the storage nodes, who's storing the data, they're getting paid in storage coin, right? How does the value get from one place to the other? In other words, how is it that storage coin becomes valuable? Where does the money come into the system? So tell me about how that works.
Yeah, so we kind of form an abstraction layer on top of the network. Like I said, we're supposed to be kind of the sword and shield, to kind of get this technology out there. So one, the majority of the value that we provide is this abstraction layer where a developer can go on the website and say, well, I need to store some application data. I can pay $10 and get 1 terabyte of storage. Done and
Right,
done.
right.
On the back end, we are utilizing the network to actually provide that storage space. So we are buying large amounts of storage space on the network, to provide that capacity and that performance, to those end developers.
That's an interesting. Let me
So the
let me summarize something because I had a flash. I just want to capture this because
right.
it became a little clearer to me. Because basically, storage as an operation has two major functions. One is the open source development that's creating the protocol and everything of the whole technology stack, which is open for anybody to use, right? And then, I mean, in
Absolutely,
terms
yep.
of they can take that technology and fork it and do what they want to with it. And that's the
Hmm.
creation of
Hmm.
the ecosystem. But on the other side, you actually have storage, the company that's utilizing all of that, including encouraging people to run nodes and encouraging participation, which creates a resource there that you can sell, and that you
Yeah,
by
so
buying it from the people who are providing it, and then encouraging people to use it on the other end, you can pull value in from developers who are having to have their data stored somewhere, and might as well be with you, or better be with you than Amazon or whatnot, who may or may not be as dedicated to privacy, security, and freedom.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's kind of an intentional brand confusion there, is that you have both storage, the open source project technology community, and then you have storage. And we have the storage labs on top, which is the company that
Right.
helps bring that all together. It's, the idea that the average, you and me just having our laptop sitting at home storing data, we're not going to be able to get like a Fortune 500 company to store,
Right. Of
data
course.
just on our hard drive.
Of course.
But we can do that for you. We can make that happen, and then that value is passed through the network to you. And so again, it's that whole abstraction layer to bring value into the ecosystem where it would be too hard to do kind of organically through the network itself.
Cool. Cool.
Because at the end of the day, those people need support and help and development, and we can provide that, and you just don't have to worry about it.
Right. No, that's really great. So now, boy, we could get down into the details of how that works, but I don't really want to do that. Basically, what you're able to do, leveraging the utility of the network, you're able to buy resources basically from people in exchange for storage coin, which they have a market value, and you're able
Right.
to by being that central point, you're able to focus and bring users into the ecosystem who will pay you your
Right.
your your due. And now that's cheaper, I assume.
Yeah, so again, the idea is still of decentralization and user control of data. So again, as a
Right.
knowledge provider, we don't have any encryption keys, those kind of
And
stuff. We
that's
just
huge stuff.
help,
Yeah.
right? We just help kind of move things from one thing to the other, and so you can kind of think of it as we are a company that buys apples, right, in bulk, and we're help transport them and
Yeah,
pack
get
and
them
ship them and clean them
right.
and get them to your local supermarket. And since we're doing that at bulk, then we can
Oh
get
yeah,
a better price for 10,000 apples than
of
you can get
course.
for
And
one.
if you
Right,
couldn't if you didn't have that price differential, you couldn't do what you're doing. So that makes
right,
sense. What I'm
right.
asking
But
is
the,
well, we got go ahead. You obviously have
yeah,
something in
so
mind.
I did want to add the thing. The users can still go to the end farmer and go get the apples directly.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh okay, no,
That's very important
that
that
really is a
they're
good
not
point.
right. They're not pushed out of that network. They can do that, and there's processes where that actually makes a lot more sense. You're like an apple connoisseur, and you want to get those apples direct than using a service like us, or you want special types of apples that we don't offer. Then that's very useful for you. But our goal is just to make that process simpler. So go ahead. What you were saying
Well,
before.
yeah, no, I see why you're saying that too, because it could be the idea that everybody's centralizing on storage the
Right.
company,
Right.
but really they're just using the network in a decentralized way. And yeah, and anyway, however that works, I don't, we'll let people sort out that detail in terms. I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but basically what I'm trying to get at is how much does it cost? Okay, I've got I can store on Amazon Web Services or Google or wherever, and it's going to cost this much. And but there's there's that it's hackable. It maybe isn't secure. But over here on storage, we've got nobody really knows where the data is, but it's available more quickly. It's more
Mhm.
secure. Nobody has access to it, but the people who are supposed to have access to it. Period. Right. Right.
Right.
Okay, that's all really good things. Now, what about the cost? What does this cost one relation to the other? Because that becomes that been. Oh, this is a nice, valuable thing over here. This storage sounds pretty good, but it's going to be more expensive, I'm sure, because it's so much better, right?
Yeah. So we're actually starting at a price point that's half off any traditional cloud storage providers out there. So
Wow.
historically, Amazon S3 has provided about 3 cents a gigabyte a month. We're starting at 1.5 cents a gigabyte a month. On transfer, they started around 9 cents. We're starting at around 5 cents for bandwidth transfer. So we're starting at a price point that's half off any traditional cloud storage providers, and we could go down from there. So we
Ooh,
just thought that was a
you're lighting a
good starting
match.
point.
You're lighting a match
Yeah.
under some big toenails. I tell you, there's
Trying
going to
to.
be some hot feet jumping around here before long. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're posting, $1 billion in surprise profit.
I
And
think
that marketplace, no one says, "I'd like less data storage, please."
right.
So it's always a market that is growing and expanding, and even if we can get a small sliver of that market, I think it'll be really impactful to users and to the people on the network.
Wow, and I can see that one could view the long range with a good bit of ambition. Uh, but let's start where we're at. Okay, that's cool. That's very encouraging. Now, I mean, I'll tell you, back to the point of like I'm immersed in the safe network, and these concepts are not strange to me because the safe network is basically not taking just storage, but basically almost everything about the internet and incentivizing it in a very similar model. Much more intricate to do that than
Absolutely,
I know you
absolutely.
know this. It's like a much harder problem to crack that's been in progress for over 10 years. It's really starting to make some real serious headway, and I look to that launching soon.
Yeah,
But
we're
that
really
actually
excited about that.
doesn't undo what you're doing at all because these things kind of fit together in real interesting ways as I start to inspect it. Before I just said, whatever they're doing. No, this is important. So that's cool. Um, where was I going with that? Oh yeah. But let's get back now down to the other end of the public. Just some schmo like myself, really a technical simpleton who I go, okay, well, what is, go to your site. Oh, yes. And we should say STORJ,
Yes,
storage.io
correct.
is the website. And let's clarify this because I had a question. Right here in the middle, it says sign up for free. And I thought, okay, but I wasn't sure what I was signing up for. So I recommend if you want to store data so that people
Yeah,
know,
so
because I had to find that out from you.
so the front end of the website there is catered towards developers, storing data for their applications.
Okay.
If you go in the top right, where it says rent your drive, that's catered towards people who want to rent out their hard drive space to the network.
And if you hover
So
over that, it says earn money by sharing your extra hard drive space on the network. So there we go. That makes it a lot clearer as to which is which. Okay, and now the the developer end of signing up for storage in order, and now that's not going to always be free, right? That's free right now until you actually go hot and live and say, okay, we're when is that going to be?
probably the beginning of next year.
So this is imminent.
So
This
after after the holiday break.
Okay. So you
So,
guys are ready for prime time. That was something that I
but
was
we'll
really excited about.
yeah, so we'll have some pretty generous free tiers in the network. We want people to try it and use it and smash it around. So
Sure.
we'll be having make sure that there's plenty of free space if you want to try it and use it and build a new application. It's not till you're a major application then perhaps you'll
Well,
start paying
you've
for
also
the
got to
service.
build the public and the reputation and boom and
Yeah,
see the
absolutely,
value.
absolutely.
And I have a feeling it's even going to get cheaper as you go along. Once ultimately. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what economies of scale do.
Good. So any developer who goes to storage.io can start poking around and they'll know enough to make sense out of what they're looking at. Whereas I kind of go, "Uh-oh, you got some command line stuff here right off the bat." I go, "I don't
Absolutely.
know." But if you're simple like me, you can go to storage.io and the upper right-hand side it says rent your drive. Now, from what you're telling me and I haven't done this, that becomes real easy to just say, okay, I've got my computer running all the time. I'm going to
Yep.
establish this. What do we have to do here?
Yeah,
Downloads.
it's pretty simple. You download, there's three fields, your payment information, where you want to store the data on your computer and how much you want to store, and then there's a big green button that you press and you're good to go. So
By payment information, you mean where do you want your storage coins to go?
exactly, exactly.
And what kind of token is a storage coin?
So this is a counterparty asset, which, if you're looking at the address field, it's just a standard Bitcoin public key, standard Bitcoin address. So
And
you can use.
go ahead. You're going to answer it right
So
now.
yeah, there's tools like Counter Wallet to be able to use those tokens, and it's traded on the generic exchanges like Poloniex and whatnot.
Cool, cool. And so that's a real easy process for those listeners who just want to, want to
Try
have
it
their
out.
computer running. You want to try storing some data for storage and see what it's like to run a. Hey, because I tell you, this is something that's up and coming. The Safe
Yeah.
Network is going to make a huge splash in this same area, and I'm really excited to see you guys are actually, in business here with something. I mean, the Safe Network, like I say, is huge, and I'm excited to see that you don't feel it's competition. It's kind of like,
Yeah,
no, this is
their
the way of the
vision
future.
is yeah, their vision is a little bit more broad in terms of really bringing out the decentralized and distributed web and giving more control to users. That's a vision that we very much believe in and very much support them in. Our focus is just like let's just focus on storage right
Yeah,
here,
no, that's great.
and let MedSafe take care of all the rest of the components.
And it's here now. Hey, it's here now. Try it out. Get some storage
Ta-da!
coin. Get some storage coin.
So
So this is
yeah.
really cool. Now
Yeah, I
that
encourage your listeners to try it out
I'm
after.
going to. I'm going to do it
Yeah,
right. I'm going to do it this evening.
takes 5 minutes
Yeah, I'm going to
or
do it. I'm
less.
going to do it here real shortly on at least one of my computers, maybe a couple of them. So that's really cool. I mean, and I've had some experience running vaults on the Safe Network, but that's still very, it's not quite plug and play yet. But I want to. I spotted a couple things I want to ask about when we talked about
Sure.
storage coin. Now that's just the token that people are being paid in. What you say storage is a blockchain based technology. What blockchain is it? Your own blockchain? What
So we're
blockchain are we
using the
talking?
Bitcoin. So Counterparty, the protocol that we use, sits on top of Bitcoin. So it's
Right.
this extra metadata on a Bitcoin transaction. So we're using the Bitcoin blockchain, not our own
Okay,
blockchain.
but that's not so much tied into the actual function of storage, just the payment,
Right.
right?
So we use a lot of the so-called cryptographic primitives like the same public and private key signatures that Bitcoin uses, and other technological things that are sprinkled in. Majority of the thing that we use that for is payments.
Right.
The idea that if a gigabyte is a third, 3 cents a gigabyte per month. If I want to go send you a megabyte and I want to go incentivize you for that, that value is just so infinitesimally small. I can't do that through any traditional means. I can't do an ACH transfer to your bank account for 3 millionth of a penny.
Right.
So using Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is the only way you can do that incentivization.
I got it. So the actual structure of your technology is not built on a blockchain. It's just mainly the tracking of incentives and the payment of
Right.
incentives are what is
So
okay. Well,
so
that's really
private
good. That's a really good point to clarify. I kind of knew that, but it wasn't. I got a little confused there. So that's good for folks. But
Yeah, I think the issue around building your storage network out of blockchain and Bitcoin technology directly as it really doesn't scale. I think
uh,
that's something that Safe Network has realized very early on is that they have to build their own infrastructure and
well, yeah,
ecosystem to be
we,
able to
the
that.
Safe Network is very, very different. It's not a blockchain
Right.
technology at all.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another matter. Okay, well that clarifies one thing. We're burning through some time here. I just want to look and make
Running
sure
out
we
of
don't.
time here.
I want to make well, we could probably talk a while, but when we start pushing, a limit, people get tired of listening. Well, I feel pretty good about that. I feel like we've covered everything. I tell you, I am excited about storage. When I talked to John there in Salt Lake, and the lights went off, I go, oh, this is what I'm really focusing on now. Is well, I mean, I'm shepherding along, watching the Safe Network and working with that, but technology and choice podcast was about okay, well, there's these technologies and they're there now, let's use them. And this is a major deal
Hmm.
that you guys, I'm really excited
Hmm.
that you guys are about to go completely hot and live. You've been in basically in beta running free stuff for a while, and it all works and everything's fine. You've signed on
Yep.
some real notable people. Oh, what form of payment do you get paid for that storage? That's one question that was hanging out.
So yeah, so we're accepting in dollars right now is that you buy, storage, 10 gigabytes for
So
a
you
terabyte, whatnot. That's what people are
so
used
you're
to.
doing it by the
For
cents, and you have payment through regular
Right,
payment
right.
channels
But
currently.
as time goes on, we'll probably add, Bitcoin and Storage Coin as
But
like additional
that's
payment mechanisms.
but that's really not integral to the system. That's because that's
Right.
paying storage enterprises or storage. I'm sorry, what was the name?
Storage Labs.
Storage labs.
Yeah.
That's paying storage labs as a company for something
Right.
that is being actually delivered by
The
the
network.
protocol and by the network. But
Right,
okay,
right.
I think we covered why that is. Good. Well,
Yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we wrap this up?
No, I think we did a good job of covering everything. I encourage people to try out the software. Like I said, it takes time to set up, and if they have any additional questions, after this, you can go on our website and join our community chat. You just ask me or the community questions directly. So we're happy to answer any questions because it's a broad topic.
So
There's lots of fun things.
that's just to go to storage.io and poke around. There's a community link and a blog, and
Yeah,
you can get involved right there. Well,
absolutely, absolutely.
that's fabulous. I'm definitely going to set up my node as soon as we get off here as I can,
Awesome.
and we'll get this. And then I'll also get the podcast out hopefully pretty quick. All right.
Awesome.
Well, Sean, thanks a lot. And
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I tell you, there's one. Since this goes out on the Let's Talk Bitcoin network, what would you like to bestow upon the folks in terms of a magic word where they can get paid in LTB coin for listening? Just
Let's see. So it has to be a single
no, if
word.
you just a word phrase,
Or it can be a phrase.
just don't
Okay.
make it too cumbersome. People get annoyed.
Store everything.
Store everything. That's STORE space everything. That's the magic word, folks. All right, Sean, thanks a bunch.